All right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. My name is Karen Sherwood, and this is episode 16 already, and it's July 23rd, 2019. And the topic for today is, what is your story? So before we jump in to exploring what is your story, let's check in with our panel and say hello. So Lavina, hello, Lavina.
Hi, Karen. Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Nice to see you.
Great to have you here. And Chris.
Hey, everyone. Great to be here. Welcome.
Hey. And Natalie's on holiday, so Natalie won't be here today. So we missed you, Natalie, but we will continue forward with our BG5 Live and exploring what is your story. So in What is Your Story, what we are taking a look at today is we are taking a look at trait number 56. And trait number 56 is the trait of stimulation. This is the wanderer. This is the storyteller. So this is stability through movement. If we take a look at a story always has this movement. So it's stability through movement. And that's why I put this picture here of the book and the pages flying out of the book, the stability through movement. The perpetuation of continuity through the linking of short-term activity. So little short stories that add up together. And the idea is never a solution, but always the journey. So it's really about taking a look at, it's not the destination, it's always the journey. It's always being a part of and enjoying the story as we're going along with the story. And this is a trait, again, in communication and action in the throat. And the voice of the 56 is I believe. So I wanted to pause here for a moment and just kind of get sort of your initial thoughts or what you see as far as anything that you want to share as far as our panel goes regarding trait number 56 and this stimulation, this wanderer, this storyteller.
I'd love to hear what Chris has to say since she's got this in her design.
Yeah, this one is my driving force, unconscious driving force, and in an undefined communication and action function. So it is one of my profit potential traits and a strong one. And so a lot of what I do is help people it comes in different levels. So it's it's helping people to tell their story. So speakers, entrepreneurs, how to communicate the story that's within them in a way that it lands for other people. So in a way that the others can receive it. But it's also, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it the stop codon as well? And so it, to me, in a lot of ways, and as a former therapist who still kind of does some business therapy, if you will, with my clients, is helping people to stop telling stories that no longer serve them. So it's really being able to see like, hey, that's a story that is not serving you anymore. Let's stop that. We got to knock that out and create a new story. So there's lots of different layers to it. And I'm curious, how that one resonates for you all too.
Wow.
Having been on the receiving end of some of Chris's coaching, when I was going through some difficulty about my own personal story, I can testify to the fact that she links the memories or the experiences to something that's grounded in actual experience that's going to support your evolution of moving forward, to learn from the lesson. Okay, what did we learn here and how can we communicate that? And one of the things I absolutely love about you, Chris, and people who have either side of this trait in the strength is that you have this way of speaking that paints word pictures. So it really puts you in the experience. And I can link from past experience into reorganize a new beginning or new potential experience through that dynamic of reimagining things and bringing things together so that we have some kind of lesson that's shared. So we're learning the moral of the story, not necessarily all the facts, but something that really moves people emotionally. And it's a voice of faith and hope. You know, it really moves you. This particular trait is what I notice.
Thank you, Lavina. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you know,
awesome.
and it is it is part of the memory circuitry as well. So just what you were talking about, remembering stories from the past, and it's in the abstract collective circuitry. So it is about, again, remembering those stories of the past. Wow. And I think it's so brilliant in what you shared, Chris, in really what you do. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's interesting because this thing that says I believe down there right above my computer up there in metal it just says believe. Right? Like, oh, interesting. And I mean, and if you take that, I like to think of believe. My daughter, who's 11 now, but in the past, she wrote me she likes to write me lots of notes, and she, instead of writing believe, she wrote be live. And that, in a way, that's really it. It's sort of like, what was the lived experience? And then what did you create? What story did you create out of that lived experience? Is it serving you? And how are you living into that story? And is it really a story that's worth keeping? And it's so fascinating how I can really see it for other people, but I'm like blind to my own book. It's just, that's part of that outer authority for for each other and helping each other out. Why we need each other to check and give those checks and balances and say, hey, do you really want to keep living into that story? That seems outdated. So.
And also the ability to educate others with the story. This is all about sharing with others. And we really do need each other sometimes to have a more objective viewpoint looking back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, give me a reality check here. I lived it, but I was so in it. And, I've definitely done that, called up friends and said, this just happened, and they're like, you should be, I'm really upset. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I should be upset too. And that could be the undefined, function, intelligence function I have. But still, it's interesting that, there's a lot of feeling to it, as Lavina was mentioning. It's experiential.
Yeah. And it's about sharing too, right? So it is there to be shared. Yeah. It's part of its purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Part of the process of sharing the journey of what it means to be human is that we learn through the experiences collectively.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing I love about this trait is that I remember when I was growing up, I remember this woman coming to our elementary school, and she sat down and we were all sitting at her feet, and she started to tell us stories, and she had no book, it was just, she was telling us stories. And I thought, I want to be like that. Like, that is amazing, and so it is a voice out of communication and action. And she was literally weaving worlds for us in our imagination. And I love that it's so much anchored, what you were talking about, Lavina, the human experience and kind of what we learn and how we have developed and evolved as humanity, through the spoken word, through the story, not just images on a cave wall, which are amazing and powerful in and of themselves, and not just, on the internet, but like just speaking our stories. There's something so, so powerful about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Being heard, being seen,
yes,
valued for the experience that we're sharing so that everyone can learn together and grow.
Exactly.
Powerful.
Yeah, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And what the trait is for today. So again, we're taking a look at stimulation. So again, it stimulates thoughts. It can stimulate action, what we share and what we believe. And the quality that we're taking a look at today is quality 5. And quality 5 is all about attracting attention. And if we take a look at what the quality 5 is all about, the quality 5 is the messenger. So it's the messenger that's really attracting attention. So if we take a look at the details here, we have the unusualness, the innovation, and sometimes genius as guarantee of eventually attracting attention and support. We have the stimulation at the most innovative and unusual, right? If you take a look at social media, everybody's trying to get attention, and the things that get attention, right, are those things that are unique, that are unusual. But we can also see that it can too often be a tendency to attract attention that is self-defeating in its effects. So it's not, it can be about getting good attention, but you also, and attention is good, but you want to be careful about what kind of attention you're getting, because you can get negative attention as well.
Isn't it in the media though? And there it is. Isn't it in the media that any attention is like good attention? Like just get your face in front of people and you will have some kind of platform.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's also the power to stimulate, of stimulation to provoke and disturb. Right. So Natalie would be happy we're provoking again today. But it can also be that power to stimulate and provoke. So just like what Lavina was saying, it can be anything, right? It can, anything that even bad publicity is publicity. Right?
Exactly.
It's about getting attention.
Your cat's trying to get attention too. It keeps
Yeah. Speaking of trying to get attention.
Exactly. That's hilarious. Cats are so funny. Oh, God. But yeah, it really is though, this whole piece of the fifth line, right? The fifth line, we were talking about this. We're going to talk about a little bit more with the example. I can't wait to share this, but of reputation, right? The fifth line is concerned with reputation. And that's that whole thing of like wanting to get that attention, but really making sure it's the correct attention. Yeah.
Yeah, especially as the fifth line, because if you get attention that's not so great attention, it can destroy your reputation. And for the 5, right, for the messenger, reputation's everything.
Yeah.
And it's like being burned at the stake, if you will, as a heretic in having your reputation be destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. I was sharing with you both beforehand that I have I'm a 5-1, so I have the fifth line as my conscious core essence, and this little poem by Rumi keeps me grounded, and it says, "Forget safety, live where you fear to live, destroy your reputation, and be notorious." And that destroying the reputation, I was sharing that it can be the lock for those of us who have fifth lines. But it can also be the key. And so it's my reminder that, my reputation, I can control that in some ways by using my decision-making strategy correctly and, getting the correct attention, but also trusting myself. And if it's not the right place or the right people, like get out, so that's, it's the lock and the key. Everything in our design is the lock and the key, but this one for me is a big one.
And there's a perfect example of speaking with word pictures. Lock and key, to see that as the piece of how you explain things and communicate with others so that we can really see what you're saying, literally see what you're saying.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking that even when you were talking about the experience of being a child and listening to the storyteller. Again, you really painted the picture of what that's all about. And I think it's a beautiful illustration of exactly what we're talking about here, talking about that attracting attention, that talking about that stimulation, that storyteller, that wanderer. And it's something we have to I think we also have to be really aware of in this day and age, both the good attention and bad attention with social media, in an instant, things can be everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Really twisted, really turned around. And I had a person that I became involved with because I didn't listen to my decision-making strategy. And this person could weave a story so brilliantly. And everybody has they're eating out of the palm of this person's hand. And this person is very manipulative, like so much so. And that is, and we can, you can see this also in the media and other places that, just because you know how to say all the right things and it sounds good and it's like high vibration, it's like new age, whatever, just it can sound really good. But if we're not trusting ourselves and having that discernment, this is a lot of what we were talking about in OC16 yesterday about that, the dumbing down of and numbing out, where people can all become sort of numbed out to the story and just believe it without even having like, wait a minute, that sounds like BS, like that. You don't do that. Wait, you're just making that up. That's not what you told me yesterday. Like, and we could just go, oh, well, I guess it's okay. I don't want to call that out, right? All of that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. And if you hear the same story over and over and over and over and over again, that story can be a complete lie. It can be a complete falsehood. But, with social media, something can catch fire. And then we see it on Facebook, we see it on YouTube, we hear it, we hear it on the news, we hear it all these different places. Yeah. And it may come from the same source, which may have been a complete lie to begin with. But now we hear it multiple times in all of these different sources. And all of a sudden, something that really is a lie, all of a sudden, we all believe that it's true. So again, it's something that we have to be also very careful of, in this day and age, what is getting our attention, right? And clickbait, is a perfect example of, attracting people to click on a story or click on a video, right? Because they're getting attention and it piques your curiosity and you're wondering what it's all about. It stimulates something, right? Stimulation. It stimulates something. You want to know more. Right? That's what clickbait's all about. So you click on it, and it takes you wherever.
And it's usually pretty juicy. It's something that, oh my God, it catches the inspiration function. Like, ooh, shiny object.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to know that story. Ooh, give me the dirt,
Yeah.
And, lies fly and the truth crawls.
Yes.
Online.
Yes, exactly. Lies fly and the truth crawls. I love that. And what's really dastardly is that it didn't take much before. Now we're starting to get a little more savvy, and the people that are doing that are getting more and more refined in their way of doing. There's a whole science to this of how to. I remember going to a coaching event. And this guy, the way he told a story, so really quick, 2 examples. The first guy told a story from his heart. It was really sweet. It was beautiful. We were all like on the edge of our chairs, like crying, like, oh my God, we all were like, whatever you're selling, we'll buy it. And then the next guy came on, and the way he told the story, I was watching it. I was like, what is he doing? He would leave people on the edge of their seat, and he'd never finished the story. And I came up to him afterwards and I said, I'm really disturbed by what you shared. I want to know what happened. And he's like, and you're here at my booth asking me what happened. And all the way through that, I said, what's the science behind that? And he goes, there's a whole science about triggering dopamine in the brain that makes you want to know more. And there's a whole science to the way people sell and tell stories from the stage that is all about triggering dopamine and getting you hooked in and wanting the story to move. That goes back to that first slide. We want the story to evolve and to be completed. And if it's incomplete, we try to complete the story ourselves. And we'll do that either by purchasing whatever it is or researching it further or whatever. And this guy, he had this, it was really quite frightening. And the scariest part, again, this is all before I really knew anything about human design, is I ended up buying his stupid product. And I walked away. I was like, what just happened? I don't even know what happened. I never used it. I don't even know what it was. I don't even know what it was. That's how crazy it is and how potent the ability to tell a story is. It goes to our brain chemistry.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Hypnotic selling techniques where they used an
Yes.
open loop and they didn't close the loop for you. You
Yep.
had to find out what happened.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I was like, huh? Look at what is here. Never here. Ugh, not one of
Yeah.
my finer moments, but I learned a lot. So,
Yes. Yeah. It's so you can see how powerful, this stimulation, this storytelling can be, especially again, it's how we communicate in it, and it's shared, and we share stories all the time. And so being aware of that. So I wanted to bring in an example, and I think this is really like the perfect example of what this 56 is all about, especially in quality 5.
mm,
So I don't know if any of you remember Monica Lewinsky. She has, I put, just to give you the context of how she became so famous, or infamous, I should say. So President Bill Clinton admitted to having what he called an inappropriate relationship with Lewinsky while she was working at the White House as an intern in 1995 and 1996. And the affair and its repercussions, which included Clinton's impeachment, became later known as the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. And so talk about ruining your reputation. And ruining your reputation, not only in your hometown with your family, but literally across the entire globe.
mm.
Like there is, I don't know of any other way that you could have your reputation dragged through the mud any more than Monica Lewinsky had her reputation dragged through the mud. So, as we see here, all too often the tendency to attract attention is self-defeating in its effects, and the power of stimulation to provoke and disturb. So you can see that whole thing is caught up exactly in that. And you can see that it is her conscious core essence. It is her life work. And she was very quiet about it for a long period of time. And she recently did a TED Talk. And if you haven't seen the TED Talk, I highly recommend it. She does a brilliant job.
Yes.
And so it's about, let's see, the price of shame. That's the title of it. And so being publicly shamed, being publicly humiliated, and now speaking about and standing up for and against cyberbullying. So again, if somebody has a voice, if somebody has learned through experience, it's Monica Lewinsky. And I put here that her mess is her message, right? It was a huge mess. But we were talking about this before we started. She doesn't approach it from being a victim, right? She approaches it from, this is what happened to me. This is the story of what happened to me. And this is now, she has conviction, right? This is now what I stand for. And I found it really fascinating. You can actually see this right here. You can see this is a quote from her TED Talk. It's about changing behavior begins with evolving beliefs. So changing behavior in the 10 is all about behavior of self, and she has a conviction to that, and through the 56, through evolving beliefs. So again, just a really beautiful example of, again, how devastating, having a hard time speaking today, how devastating it can be to have your reputation dragged through the mud and ruined worldwide. But yet she didn't let it stop her, right? And now she's using it as what she has to share, in a sense, with her wisdom in supporting others. And Chris, you do a lot of working with people in doing TED Talks and that type of thing. I would love to get, sort of your impression of this. I know you've seen this TED Talk.
I love this talk. I think she did an amazing job of just laying it out. And as you mentioned, there's not a victim sort of she doesn't take that stance. And I actually saw her on another interview with John Oliver called, I think Last Week Tonight is the name of his show. And he talks about cyberbullying and interviews Monica on there. And she's just so sharp, so cool. I was noticing she has the 51 as well, which, would be like that shock initiation. She isn't going to do this very quietly, is she? But she just, her poise, her grace, her, and she even admits like how, she was really young when all of that happened. And, she was just like caught up in all of what was happening and the, who this was and the whole time, I mean, it's just, it's so fascinating. But yeah, she just does a beautiful job of laying that story out that you just can't help. I couldn't help but just have deep respect and a lot of love for her and what she went through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the main point I want to make here is that, sometimes we think of, sort of the challenges or what may seem like detriments or horrible things that happen in our life. Like, why did that happen? And at the time it's not pretty, right? At the time, and one of the things she talks about is, at one point in time wanting to end her life as well. And how a lot of people that get bullied online, that does end up happening to them, and so, the impact that she can have now being in a sense, the ultimate authority in that, in getting her reputation, like I said, dragged through the mud and being able to really support those, who come across that. And so no matter what you go through, like I said, your mess is your message. So it may not be pleasant at the time, but if we can really take on, in a sense, observing what's going on with us, then we have an amazing story to tell that can then help and support others in the future. You don't have to be a victim to it. It can be something that you learn and grow and mature through. And it's something that you can then utilize to share and support and help and serve others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's funny, all of the words that you're using, Karen, it speaks to the life cycles that she's going through, the Saturn or the growing evolution of her when she was going through this whole scenario. And when it actually came out, it was about being of service to others, which we know is a very supportive life cross to take or life purpose to move through. And then the next one is about being able to help with the planning that's moving forward, her maturing cycle. And then her last is about being able to be someone who gives direction through the directions of life, the varying directions that we can go in life, and to be an example of someone who has gone through, like you said, the mud and come out the other side with a story to tell that helps and serves and supports others, educates them, because it's about educating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have some people in the room. If you guys feel like sharing anything that you're observing before we wrap up. On Facebook, we have someone, Marco is saying, in order to build new, we need to destroy the old. As a 3-5, I can relate. And we're talking about reputation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Rewriting. You got to let go of the older stories that don't work. Mm-hmm. And that's why we call it the hero's journey. Again, it's because it is not for the faint of heart. Mm-mm. Most people don't examine the stories that they're living into. They just don't, Yeah. I mean, I have stories that I'm like, you know what? I think I'd just rather watch some renovation show on HGTV. Watch them tear things down instead of going in. I mean, there's time. We all have our thing where we're like, oh, I'd really rather not look at that. And so when we see someone who walks this path and they do it, and they're just like, and we all have our own version of that mess, right? That thing, that place where we're just like, this is a dark, dark place. And we move through it and we move through the experience onto the other side, into the light again, and then share this is where I wandered into a dark hole, a dark, dark place. Let me tell you what's in there. You can go there if you want, but let me just orient you. You don't have to. Here are the lessons, and here I can help you if you find yourself in that place. And that's really what this is all about, is telling those stories from that place.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Rachel was saying when Ra talks about Monica, he talks about the 27 and how she needed to learn to be more selfish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Taking
exactly.
care of herself. Yeah, exactly. Most of us need to do that. Most of the clients that I have who have the 27, that's definitely a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So the power of stories, and and when we take a look at the stories that are the most entertaining, the ones that we really connect to, the movies and the books and the TV shows that are amazing, right? It's typically, the characters that have gotten into, just like you said, Chris, gotten into that dark place, right? Have gone through some kind of crisis where they've learned, they've grown, they've progressed, to be able to come out to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, your mess is your message. So being able to, and I think this is one of the beautiful things about BG5, as well as human design, is really learning to really love and trust and accept yourself exactly the way you are. All of your past. Remember, when we're taking a look at the 56, it is about the past. And so it's about accepting the past. And I love what you said at the very beginning, Chris, too. It's about being able to, in a sense, rewrite your stories. Is that story serving you or not? Yep. Right? And, are you being a victim to the circumstances? And wanting attention, or are you using those stories to beat yourself up? Or are you using those stories in an empowered way that also, supports and empowers others?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think also it's important to note that the 56 points towards the mind. And in that way, we are, or the, help me. It just went out of my mind. It just went out of my head.
Peace and ideas and that.
Conceptualization. Sorry.
Oh, conceptualization. Yes.
Yeah. So it has a lot to do with our thoughts and that. And so it's not that it's a story coming from our being. It's a story that we're experiencing, yet in some ways processing through our mind, or relative to the mind, if that makes sense. And so I'm also thinking about, even if we're, ready to embark on a journey and we're telling ourselves a story about how it will turn out, we may stop ourselves in that way too. So it's really looking at the stories, whether you're halfway through the journey, whether you're embarking on the journey, where you're, and just being willing to step into that, step into it, whatever, and take the risk that it's going to be messy, because actually that's where the good stuff comes from.
Yeah. It's surrendering to the journey, surrendering to the process, allowing the story to unfold. In a sense, watching the movie of your life instead of trying to control it, watching the movie as it plays out, being able to observe it.
Yeah. Anna is mentioning that Monica also has many strengths in her career design to help her in her process of developing awareness. And this is an immensely powerful design that can bounce back from any kind of break in the spirit of the life. It's a very consistent, as we can see, not just the areas that are defined in her design, but also her life path is all within consistency. So she doesn't have this potential for her spirit to be broken. She has this potential to rise up. And this is part of her life's journey, to influence or get that message out to the other people who might also have had some kind of that kind of experience that they're going through. She serves as an inspiration and succeeding despite the failure of that tear down in the reputation.
Yep.
Yeah. And another way of thinking about it too is that, I often will say our design does us, not the other way around. And so her design was doing her. And and there can be great peace in that. And especially when you look at it, what you were just saying, Lavina, about, like she has the strength to do this. She's in some ways designed to be the spokesperson, but only way that she could ever be the most potent spokesperson is to go through exactly what she went through. So there's people out there like, why did this happen to me? It's like, who better?
It makes for
right.
great TV.
It does, right? But it's also, but it's also like, who, it wouldn't have, what I love the Sufi saying is like, what hit you couldn't have missed. What hit you couldn't have missed. And it's sort of like that with our design. What we've done and what we're doing couldn't have missed us. We can be consciously aware of it, and we can have more say in that as we increase our awareness, as we use our decision-making strategy above all else. But, our design is going to do us. It's already happening. And so the more conscious we are about it, the more fun I think we can have with it. But, to say that we're a victim in any way, shape, or form, I believe there's no real proof to that.
It's a very disempowering stance to take. Yeah.
Exactly.
There are no accidents, right?
Yeah.
And in the Facebook group, Julie is saying, thanks for bringing this up, ladies. It's such a real issue that is out there. Truly appreciate this as the topic today. Yeah, it's right in the flow, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. And I think for those of us who are speakers, who are entrepreneurs, who are out there, sharing ourselves, sharing our story, sharing our services, and, you see just one little misstep or someone takes your comment out of, it can be all blown up. And so how many of us don't show ourselves and tell our story, our authentic story, because of what's going on out there? And I think that that's also part of it, is just really having that discernment between, who really holds your reputation. If I believe that if I know who I am and I am acting in integrity, then no matter what anybody else says about me, it doesn't matter. And that is, I think that's also what Monica really is, right? With the 10 and that, and just, it's like that perfected form, that sense of like, this is the appropriate way to behave in the face of wanting to kill oneself because of all of that bullying. Like, no, I'm going to come through, and I'm going to be a role model for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, she really did exemplify personal empowerment, which is a big part of her design.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to shout to the heavens when you said that, Chris. I was like, amen. That's a really amazing stance to take.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly. And that point that you make, that, there's two sides of it. Some of us don't even put ourselves out there because we're afraid of, people making negative comments, and and you put something out, and you could have like 100, and I know this even in speaking and being an instructor, you get your evaluations back. You could have 100 people in your room. You have 100 positive feedback. You get that one negative one, and then you focus in on that negative one. And how many times, whether if you do videos or if you do, you write articles, you talk, you speak, you get the word out there, whatever it happens to be, and you get a lot of positive feedback, you get that one negative feedback, and you focus on that, and you shut everything down.
Oh yeah, for sure. With my TED Talk that happened, I got one bet, and I was like, oh, and I never looked at it for like a couple years. I couldn't even bear to watch it, and because of the comments. And then I also got an email about my book, and the woman just, oh my God, she was wrote this whole thing. And I stopped reading it. I deleted it, but then I emailed my friend. I said, I've arrived. I got my first hate mail. I was like, yes. So anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I can relate. I wrote that article for Jovian on Donald Trump. And I got my first serious hate mail then, and I was like, oh no. And it can really set you back if you take those things personally and you don't recognize that a lot of times that stuff that's negative, it's just them projecting their negativity about whatever it is that you said. It's not personally about you.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's part of the reason why it's so important to be grounded in your unique career design. Because just like you were saying, Chris, when you are grounded in who you are, when you know who you are, right? And you're grounded in that, it doesn't matter what others say.
No, it doesn't. And even very quickly, like last night, I was having one of those moments. I have identity and direction undefined. And I was having one of my moments where I'm like, where am I? What am I doing? Like, who am I? And I was riding, I got on my bike and I just started riding. And I was like, wait a minute. I know who I am. I am a person riding her bicycle right now. And I am trusting that my body is going to take me where it needs to go right now. That's all I need to know. That's it. And it brought me right back into this present moment. And that is the power of our design. It is the power of understanding it. It's made all the difference about when I know I'm getting pulled off track, when I know I'm receiving an incorrect projection. It's helped me to understand where I get off track and what stories I'm telling that are simply not true. They're just not true. And if there was anything in the human design though, and in career design that would help with hot flashes, that would be amazing. Cause I'm like over here, a hot flash.
I'm going through the same thing. If you were looking at me behind the scenes, I'm like, help, AC, fan. Right now.
Just keeping it real over here.
That's the flush.
Oh God. I'm glistening. Anywho.
Yeah.
Destroying my reputation as someone who doesn't sweat on screen.
That cool as a cucumber, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think this is an amazing topic. And kind of moving forward, just kind of taking a look at what is your story. Mm-hmm. So I just want to say this real quick, and then we'll get back to this. What is your story? And we'll wrap everything up. Again, if you are just finding us and you want to find more about your unique career design, please visit our website at bg5businessinstitute.com. You can get your free report, which you can find out your career type and your decision-making strategy. We also have our new courses coming up in September. Our courses start 3 times a year in May, September, and January. So September is coming up. And we have a couple of BG5 Foundation courses. So Lavina and Natalie will be teaching the BG5 Foundation course. Natalie will be teaching the BG5 Career and Business Certification course starting in September. And Chris is going to be training our Drive and Stamina in our Profit Potential workshops. So make sure that you sign up and become a part of the BG5 Business Institute and really uncovering and discovering what is your own story. So let's wrap everything up with just last words in what we spoke about today, and anything that you want people to pay attention to or look out for over the next couple of days, because we'll still be in the 56, or if you have 56 in your own personal design as well. Would you like to start, Lavina?
Oh, the advisor likes to go after, like to see what other people are going to say. So how about we start with Chris? Because I imagine, with your story, that I'm curious about the transformation that you've had just in the time that you've been working with design yourself with the BG5 Institute, particularly.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm definitely more grounded in is how I tell my story and the power of that. Also, just understanding that I am a natural storyteller helped me to finish my book in the first place. And that was really, I mean, it was sort of like, oh, I always wish I was a storyteller. And then I realized it's unconscious in an undefined function. It's like, oh, no wonder I've always been attracted to that. And as soon as I knew I was a natural storyteller, I was like, oh, done and done. I've finished the book like that. So I think that understanding that and seeing, again, as a former therapist and helping people, and still what I do in coaching is helping people to tell a new story or to tell the story of what they do, and understand that through understanding my own career design. It's just affirmed it validated. I don't have to wonder about that anymore. And that's just been so fun and so empowering. And story is what sells. So it's really, it doesn't matter what you're selling, even selling my kids on, doing the dishes. Like, maybe the story is you don't get to do whatever you want to do if you don't do your chores, but that's still right. And they can then, and I leave it open to them to finish the story and the way that works for them. So really it is that ability to tell a story, whether you have it defined or not. So just notice over the next couple of days, what old stories no longer resonate for you, and that you can let those go. And what's a new story you'd like to tell yourself? Just play around with that. That's what I would say over these next few days.
Love it. Love it.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that you have this ability to help people craft their new story. And all of us who encounter this system, we have a story that we come to this particular experience with that is based on negative or false beliefs, misidentification, miscommunication. So the commonality that I see is that when people come to this transformative kind of work, they have one story. And like you said, Chris, once they have the experience of seeing what they're genetically designed to be good at, now they have a confidence. Yes. And they can start to experiment and find themselves living out the lived story of their unique genetic potential that is so exalted in the face of all of this, homogenized, my life should be perfect like we see out there, instead of what my own integrity of my being is wanting to live, is here designed to live. So the design by genetic nature of how we're here to be successful with other people, or satisfied, or in alignment with innovating and being peaceful and at the center of the hub of the community, everything that we're here to be for ourselves and the other, it transforms when we have this kind of tool. So for those of you who are watching or listening or experiencing this yourself, I'd love to hear, what is your story that you've seen yourself transform through that system? Because that's the kind of thing that I really get excited about. So love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that too.
Yeah, and we have a couple of case studies in our blog area that talk about, in a sense, this transformation of what they learned and the process they went through. And for me, in wrapping everything up, what's your story? And really enjoying the adventure of life and being the star of your own movie, right? There's many people that are simply an extra in their own life, an extra in their own movie. But what is it to really be the star in your own movie and enjoying the show, enjoying the process, enjoying the ups, enjoying the downs. When you are truly what Ra talked about, being the passenger, right? You can sit back and grab the popcorn and kind of watch your own life unfold. You are the character. You are the main character in your own play, in your own movie. And when you can really enjoy that with all its great times, all its bad times, all its heartbreak, all its excitement, all its joy, that's what life is all about. Enjoying all of it, the good and the bad, the ups and the downs. That's the story. And to really enjoy that whole process, and to let go of that no longer serves you, like you were talking about, Chris, rewriting the stories, rewriting the past of that which no longer serves us, and taking a look at, how we can create a new story moving forward into the future. Yeah. Oh, this has been a really fun topic.
I know, right? We could just talk stories all day long with this one, huh?
Exactly.
We have that in Hawaii, where I was born and raised. We call it talking story when you get together and just chat.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, in many ways, that's what we're doing here in BG5 Live. Is we're just telling our story, sharing our experience, and hopefully it's been beneficial, and all of you have learned from it as well. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.